Hello and welcome back to the fourth lesson of the Year 2 Theory and Methods section of this online series. For the theory and methods part of the specification, you're expected to be familiar with the general ideas about each of the main sociological theories and be able to make applications to different topic areas. These were the main points that we covered last time about functionalism. In this video, we're going to have a look at the work of this man, and I should add that he definitely is a man. There is occasionally some confusion, I think because of the way his name appears in print, but Emile Durkheim was one of the early sociologists, and we associate his ideas or theory with functionalism. Please press pause as you add this as your title for this section, either written on a piece of paper or typed on a computer. Functionalism with specific reference to Durkheim. To supplement this video on the work of Emile Durkheim, please see the Google Doc that I've linked to this lesson via Classroom, entitled Functionalism Detail Sheet Intro and Durkheim. Some of the ideas that we're going to look at with Durkheim may seem a little daunting at first, but as we do more topics and refer back to his ideas in future lessons, it will become a lot clearer, if not first time. Durkheim was one of the most influential of the early functionalist sociologists. Whilst it is not essential to remember the specific dates of the various sociologists that we study, I do want you to think about the context. Durkheim was born in 1858 and died in 1917. Obviously that means that he's dead now, meaning that when you write about his ideas, you're not applying them to current issues in the present tense. Rather, this is what he would have said about such and such an event. Try to think about the general conditions during Monsieur Emile Durkheim's life. For example, why wouldn't an academic writing at this time be female? What had happened before he was born, during his life, and after his death? Think about the issues surrounding industrialisation, urbanisation, and science. Press pause as you consider these. In Lesson 2, we looked at this definition of social facts. The concept is central to Durkheim's analysis of society. Durkheim wanted to show that sociology was a scientific subject, unlike the natural scientists. This is something that, again, we'll look at in much more detail when we look at sociology and science. But for the time being, we just need to concentrate on the belief held by Durkheim that individuals are controlled by these social facts. These social facts exist outside of us and cause us to act the way we do. The diagram shown here, that I've previously made reference to, could be used to illustrate Durkheim's ideas, although I imagine he wouldn't be so keen to be associated with the cartoon. The main point here is that for Durkheim, society is a real thing that exists outside of individuals, causing them to behave the way they do. An illustration which Durkheim himself offers is the case of fatherhood, to specify the nature of social facts. This is the first image via my Google image search, but what do you typically associate with fatherhood? Have a good think about this. Paternity is in one sense a biological relation. A man fathers a child through the act of procreation, but paternity is also a social phenomenon. A father is obliged, by convention and law, to act in various definite ways, vis-à-vis his offspring, and of course other members of his family also. These modes of action are not created by the individual in question, but form a part of a social system of moral duties in which he is enmeshed with other men. While an individual might flout such obligations, in doing so he feels their force and thereby confirms their constraining character. To quote the man himself, via translation, "Even when I free myself from these rules and violate them successfully, I am always compelled to struggle with them. When finally overcome, they make their constraining power sufficiently felt by the resistance they offer." This is, of course, most obvious in the case of legal obligations, which are sanctioned by a whole apparatus of coercive agencies, the police, the law courts, etc. But a large variety of other sanctions exist which reinforce adherence to obligations not expressed in law. Durkheim reiterates, however, that conformity to obligations rarely rests upon fear of the sanctions which are applied against contravention. In the reading I've provided you with this lesson, there is a more detailed answer to this question: how are beliefs and values passed on from one generation to another? But the short answer is socialisation. Society existed before you were born, and will continue to do so after you die. The thing that remains is what Durkheim refers to as the collective conscience. For Durkheim, the collective conscience is a social fact, external to an individual. It shapes and constrains the behaviour of members of society. The social institutions socialise members into this collective conscience, according to Durkheim. Durkheim was interested, again note the time that he was alive, in the differences between pre-modern societies, such as this, and modern industrial societies, such as this. In a pre-modern society, Durkheim said that most people were, by and large, pretty much the same. In keeping with his desire to make sociology be seen as a scientific subject, he uses terms and references that might be more familiar to a scientist. This type of society here, the pre-modern society, is based on what Durkheim calls mechanical solidarity, which meant for most people, unless you're the king or the queen, your life was pretty much the same as everyone else's. There was a high degree of similarity. You were born somewhere, probably lived there until you died, and in the meantime would probably have done pretty much exactly as your parents had done and theirs before them. This would be the same as everyone else. There was very little change, no social mobility, and very little differentiation. This changes with the advent of the modern industrial society. We have what Durkheim refers to as a new type of solidarity, organic solidarity. In this new era or time period, we're now different to each other. An example of this would be the division of labour on the factory production line. In pre-industrial society, you probably did everything if you wanted to build something, the whole process from start to finish. In the modern industrial society, your job in a factory might be to just do one part of the production of the car. So your role may be just to install the steering column, someone else does the tyres, someone else does the windows, and so on. Durkheim was very concerned about the changes that were taking place in people's lives. In times of upheaval in particular, he was worried about the disruption to social lives, that is, to their norms and their values. Another key term associated with Durkheim is anomie. Cast your mind back to your first day of college. There would inevitably have been some confusion about what you did, where to go at break time between lessons, and so on. Now imagine the change someone living through industrialisation would have experienced. Born in a small village, transported to a large city or town to work in a factory, all in one lifetime. Conditions such as these would lead to what Durkheim referred to as anomie. Please press pause and add anomie to your key terms associated with functionalism glossary. We're going to come back to Durkheim in a number of different places in sociology. One of these will be deviance. On the face of it, to be deviant doesn't seem to be positive or beneficial to society. But remember, for the functionalist, every social institution has a positive impact on society as a whole. Therefore, think about the possible benefits of deviant acts such as graffiti, or more graphically, a public hanging. In sum, these are the key points from Durkheim's functionalist analysis of society. Please remember, we will come back to a number of these in the future, in particular when we study the sociology and science debate.